I know you're probably watching this amazed that I am back here talking about Tyler Perry again after my last video, which was talking about Tyler Perry. And I'm here to assure you that don't worry, he'll be next week too. Because last week I talked about his movie Duplicity, which is an absolute piece of shit. But in that video, I brought up how I had seen his latest show on Netflix called Beauty in Black, which is a drama, kind of soap opera essentially. And I said I'd probably make a video on it. And lo and behold, that's what I'm doing today. And considering there are 16 episodes that I'm going to talk about in their entirety, I've decided to split this up into two parts. Today we're talking about the first 8 episodes, and if you haven't heard anything about Beauty in Black, it is all of the things you love and hate about Tyler Perry, but spread out over the course of 16 nearly hour-long episodes. And you know, that sounds bad, but considering I am partaking in this much like I would any other like messy, convoluted, dramatic, like people stabbing each other in the back, kind of like I'm coming in with the vibe of soap opera, and that allows me to enjoy this a little more than if I did expecting it to be like a law film or whatever the that movie was. This movie is convoluted, messy, but it's built almost in reference to soap operas of lore, or at least I like to think of it as that. And so I wanted to engage with it like that. It is a messy, convoluted story about drugs, lies, company corruption. It's a whole vibe. Is it good though? Rest assured, no. Is it entertaining? That I will leave to you. For me, sometimes, like, I think talking about the overall story, I think talking about what happens in it is a lot more interesting than actually watching it, to be quite frank with you. If you sit there, there's a lot of kind of false starts the show has. Like, people will say the same line 8 times and it'll be like, wait, what are you talking about? I told you what I'm talking about. No, tell me, what are you talking about? Oh my God, what do you mean? How do you not know what I'm talking about? Tell me! Like that type of thing. And it's like, that's not writing, baby. I'm gonna need you to say words. I'm gonna need us to. But once you trim the fat of that, it's just some good old fashioned late night soap opera with, again, drugs, lies, and mess. Hello everyone, this is Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by ThredUp, the online thrift store that takes all the crappy part of thrifting out of it. No more going through musty, dusty, left and forgotten bins. No more trying to find something that fits you or something that fits your style. ThredUp takes the hassle out because it's online, so you can organize things via your style, via a brand. If you're looking for clothes or accessories or shoes or purses or wallets or whatever, handbags, you can organize by that. So you don't have to spend all day rummaging through an entire establishment that smells like the back of your grandma's pantyhose drawer. And thrifting itself is a great way to limit waste, get something and give a new life to an item. There's nothing quite like when you discover a favorite on ThredUp, like this pink sweater that I'm wearing right now. You gonna see a lot of this, baby. This is perfect. The length is perfect. It's oversized, it's comfy, it's cozy. I love the color. This is about to be a spring fave. And you'll be sure to find a lot of your spring faves over on ThredUp. Get you that flowy maxi, get you them new sandals, get you that cute little sun hat, little sun dress. You can shop name brands, luxury brands. I've gotten luxury brand wallets and purses from ThredUp for a fraction of the price because it's thrifting, and even lower because it's ThredUp. And because you're watching my channel. Because if you click on the link below and use code Kennie50, you can get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. Feel free to choose, use, and shop my picks. Those will be down below. And big thanks to ThredUp for sponsoring today's video. Now on to the debauchery. Beauty in Black is a convoluted story from the mind of Tyler Perry about an exotic dancer named Kimmy who gets sucked into the dangerous nightlife and the world of the Bellary family, a family of high-powered black capitalists running a relaxer brand by the name of Beauty in Black. It has been in their family for several generations, and we see the kind of power grabs, power struggles between each of those factions of the family, and Kimmy is kind of our conduit to their secret lives of drugs and violence and, you know, paranoia, corruption. It's a whole vibe. And if you don't think of it again as this like beacon of quality, it is a perfectly acceptable soap opera. It's a mess. And for that, it does its job. There's a lot more balls than I would expect in your average, though. I won't have an opportunity to talk about every single time I see balls in this show. Mostly ass, actually. That's not fair. It's mostly man ass. Is it well written? No. There's no particularly interesting performances or story arcs or character development. It is just drugs, corruption, lies, betrayal the whole time. And it's a lot of people saying, you turning me into the bitch I was trying not to be, but here I am again. And that's perfectly adequate to have on while you deep condition or while you're getting your hair braided at home. Can't play it in a nail salon unless you want, again, man ass and the occasional balls on your public screen. But if you don't mind, it does the job while you're waiting for your nail polish to dry. It's consistent in that way, in that it opens as a soap opera and it's a soap opera the entire way. Honestly, I think very extreme soap opera is the only thing Tyler Perry really can do consistently. I find that when he tries to venture into other forms, he kind of falters. Duplicity, where he tried to make a real movie and then he just gave up the last 10 minutes, I guess, and turned it into soap opera. But anyway, this is a show about mess and how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Okay, so we're talking about the first 8 episodes today. Before we get started too much into the first episodes, I figured that I could talk about the characters a little bit, just briefly. Simply because as you're watching the show, you get a lot of people thrown at you and you forget who's who, and then you forget who's related to who to what. And hopefully just having us talk about it briefly right now will set your mind, for the rest of the lesson class. So again, our main character and the person that we kind of follow into the wild world of the Belleries family is Kennie. Kennie is a stripper at a bisexual strip club where some nefarious things are happening. She's not treated well at her strip club, verbally abused regularly, and essentially she is working off a debt that we don't know about at the beginning of the episode. She has 2 friends that work at the club as well. One is a woman named Rain, who is kind of her childhood friend because she had a rough childhood and they both were kind of abandoned and found a sisterhood within each other. And then Angel, who is a male dancer at the club who Kennie ends up going into business with, so to speak. Then we have the Bellery family, okay? You have 2 brothers. You have Horace, you have Norman. Norman doesn't have any kids. Horace has 2. He was married to a woman named Olivia, but they are now divorced. And Olivia has gone and given her life to the church, supposedly. His 2 sons are Roy, who is an absolute piece of shit, super spoiled, an absolute mess. And their second son is Charles, who is a party boy who's very gay. Roy ends up married to a woman named Mallory, who is giving very stereotypical, very high-powered, high-fashion realness. She's mean to everybody. She's very rude. Her hair is always bone straight. That's how you know she's serious. Okay. The Bellery family employs a few more of our main characters. A man named Jules, who is kind of mysterious. He seems to be somewhat of a Machiavellian figure, kind of playing every part of the Bellery and Kennie, all of their experiences with the truth. He's kind of playing all sides. We have Calvin, who is Mallory's security detail and driver, who was hired by Jules, but again, nobody really knows Jules 100%. He works with a woman named Jillian, and Jillian is the least consequential character of this entire show, but every time she's on screen, I'm like, who is that? She could have been written off, but she is Mallory's assistant slash pincushion because she's kind of there to take the punches whenever Mallory is annoyed, which is always. And her and Calvin used to around a little bit, but that's off screen. And yeah. Then we have Varney, who is the Bellery's main lawyer for a case that's a big deal at the beginning of the show. We have Body, who is the bottom bitch of the club, who is really mean and annoying for no reason, but she's annoying in the same way as like an 11-year-old bully. It's like, bitch, you're not smart at this. You're not good at this. You don't intimidate nobody. Shut the up. And then another co-owner of the club is Delinda, who is an older woman with a gap who is also verbally abusive to everyone at the club, but particularly Kennie. They keep talking about Kennie as if she's like a loose cannon in the beginning part of this show, which is very confusing because as you will see, for her to be a loose cannon, she lets y'all get away with a lot of shit. Is she a loose cannon or is she just hasn't been pushed to the edge quite yet and is about to break? Everything you say to me. Boom, 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 boom. Break. let's start talking about episode 1, my boys. Episode 1, Make It Rain. The episode opens and we meet Kennie, our main character, who is going to meet a man in a hotel room. She meets him in this opulent hotel room, and being that this is Tyler Perry, we are going to open with a man verbally abusing Kennie. We're barely a minute into it. None of this feels built up to. It's just abrupt, and he's like, "You look and smell like a whore.
You ain't got no class. You can't be sophisticated. How the hell am I supposed to get you out of the shadows when you look like you belong now?"
Tyler thought he ate with that one. He was like, "It's poetry. How you get out the shadow." There are a lot of lines that feel abruptly kind of thrown in there. Like Tyler was somewhere saying like, "Yeah, that would eat mightily. Can't wait. I can put that into something." It's like he has a throwaway bin that he can use for stuff. And he's like, "Hell yeah, that's some good shit right there. I'm Tyler. I'm so good at this, Tyler. Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. I am good at it." Eventually, he just kicks her out of the room. And this is another hit to her ego. Apparently, this is something that she's been doing, meeting up with this mysterious man. She doesn't know his name. She doesn't know anything about him. All she does is meet up with him outside of the club that she works at to do work. And he's obviously really verbally abusive, but the club that she works at says that he's a big deal, so she keeps entertaining him. But after leaving his place, she goes to her friend Rain and complains about the mysterious guy she has been sleeping with for money. And they go to a convention center of sorts where Kennie is interested in hearing a talk by Mallory Bellery, who is a business icon, the face of a very prominent beauty brand, and someone who's also giving away a scholarship for those who are trying to build a business, start a career. Kennie says to Rain that she had applied for the scholarship, and Rain, who is a bit more of a pessimist, doesn't think that it's worth waiting to figure out the results of because she has to get to work at the strip club, saying that she needs to save up her money so that she can get her ass done. There's no point in applying yourself because all they is hoes, and that's all they'll ever be. Happy she sees things on the bright side. So she goes off to work, but Kennie does decide to actually listen to Mallory Bellery's talk of sorts about their brand Beauty in Black. And again, when she came in with that pin straight lob, I knew the bitch was evil. She didn't have to say a word. And she's real sweet in the first few scenes. You know, she says the whole thing, the inspirational story of how she went from rags to riches. She married a Bellery. After they had taken her in as a child, they like adopted her. And then she started dating one of her adopted brothers. And now they got married at 22. And that's just not weird to anybody. Okay. But before she can even announce the scholarship, I guess Kimmy gets cold feet and decides to go off to the club. In fairness, she didn't win. It was a different woman who was really excited to use the money to make a salon. Yeah, so she goes to the club. Basically, they have women stripping and they have men stripping. So whichever side you like, go to that side, and it sounds like a fun time. Sounds like fun. I'd go. Anyway, and the head mistress of sorts, Delinda, and the bottom bitch, Body, the light-skinned one with the massive BBL, both of them are evil. Very like telenovela, evil, gasp in Spanish type, you know, cartoony way. Honestly, a cornerstone of Perry works.
I got 500 other girls that come in here every day looking to take your place.
Move, bitch, move! Shit!
And despite them being like visibly antagonistic, that doesn't stop Rain from talking to Body specifically about her getting an under the table butt job, much like the one that Body had gotten from one of her associates. Now, Rain decides to trust this stranger enough to let them do her butt job in the motel actually, that her and Kimmy stay in for $1,500. Okay, this is also the first of many scenes in which the people surrounding Kimmy talk about how abrasive and how like on edge she is all the time, and how much she want to fight people all the time, how much she's such a loose cannon. It's so confusing to me because people around her are obscenely, overtly violent and belligerent, and she don't do shit. She don't do shit. Like, she just got cussed out by that dude in his hotel room. This lady just yelling at her for no reason, and she ain't said nothing to nobody. She been very chill. So at some point, is it that she's a loose cannon or y'all suck? I don't know. Now, for some reason, Kimmy is the only person that is overtly saying anything to Rain about how getting a butt job job in a hotel room for $1,500 for the same price as some VIP Beyonce tickets is wild. It's wild that nobody else thinks that's strange. But in Rain's mind, if she gets to BBL, she'll make more money at the club. And apparently that's worth getting necrosis of the booty meat. Like, people die from like completely legit BBLs. So having like cell death when you could have just popped a squat is crazy. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's other things we could have did, I'm sure. So a man calls Kimmy to give him a private dance. And I was like, where do I know this guy from? And lo and behold, it is the father from the Granger brothers that we literally just talked about like a few weeks ago. I was like, I've seen you before. That's Shepard Granger. Yes, it is. And also somebody told me in the last video, I'm surprised you didn't say nothing because there is a dude in the movie that looks so familiar, and it was a white dude. And I was like, there ain't a lot of white dudes in Tyler Perry. And I was like, where do I know this person from? They were like, baby, that's the hot bailiff from Divorce Court. It's Nick. It's the hot bailiff Nick. I'm so embarrassed. How did I know that? Anyway, she goes in to give him a private dance, but while doing so, she notices that he's actually not paying attention to her. He is looking at another dancer, Angel, a male dancer. And Kimmy notices and she's like, hey, if you want him to dance for you, like, I can get him to dance for you. But because he has too much internalized shame and homophobia, he's like, oh my God, why would you say that? And he just throws money in her face and leaves. Loose cannon my ass. That's the third person that has accosted her in the first 3 minutes of this show, and she ain't cussed out nobody yet. Wild. Speaking of which, another person comes up in her face, Jules, who seems to be the main boss man of this stripper establishment. Boss is kind of a loose title. I would say pimp is more accurate. Apparently she owes him an exorbitant amount of money, and she is working off a debt while dancing at this club and presumably doing the other work that we've seen her do. Kimmy, Angel, and Rain actually all started working at this club at the same time when they were all arrested for trying to smuggle drugs in an airport. But in exchange, Jules was able to get them scot-free, but in exchange, he traffics them into doing this type of Now, Jules is upset because the client that she had earlier in the day, the one that was very upset with her and just threw her out, is a very rich client. Jules also is abusive to her, but his abuse seems to remind her of her abusive stepfather that she left home to be away from. Just assume, unless otherwise stated, that every man in a Tyler Perry something is abusive. Like, I think it just makes it easier than to like clarify who is and who isn't. Well, in fairness, a lot of the women are also abusive too. Just assume everyone's abusive. In a Tyler Perry work, nobody is well adjusted at all. None. Okay. But Kimmy was dropped off and abandoned by her mother when she was 17. She just drove her away from the house and said, get out. You basically an adult now. Leave. And, you know, if she was actually beating ass all the time, I'd see why she mad. But again, they calling her a loose cannon. Jules is like, go back to that rich man and make him happy. So she goes back. He goes on and on about how bitches only want him for money and how she doesn't dress right and how she don't do nothing right. And all he wants is someone to do whenever he wants and that his wife can't find out about. Like I said, Rain and Kimmy are living out of a motel room. And again, their friendship kind of started after her mom threw her out on the street. So they became friends as like survival, like huddling together. And for a while, they've been living out of a motel week to week. This is where Rain decides to get her butt job done. And for some reason, before the procedure, she is advised to drink alcohol, don't do that, and take Tylenol. And if that wasn't sketch enough that you were getting a BBL after being told to drink alcohol, take Tylenol, and do it in a motel, her doctor is Miss Puerto Rican herself, T.S. Madison. Girl, T.S. Madison. T.S. Madison plays a nurse who does delivery booty jobs with bathroom caulk in hotel rooms, apparently. So this will go great, as you can imagine. So after the talk and on the way back home, Mallory is given a subpoena by a lawyer because it would seem that there was a class action lawsuit going towards Beauty in Black for women who said that they got cancer from their hair care products. And though Mallory is able to save face in the face of other people, consumers, when you get in the car, you realize that Mallory is not a very nice lady.
I want that bitch murdered in the street.
She's actually kind of the devil, but I with it.
She wouldn't know what $1 million was if it fell out of the crack vial that I know she's using.
She's no more evil than the people around her, but she just has a vibe, you know? Everyone sucks as a part of this family, rest assured. And even though she married in, rest assured, she took on the title and the norms very quickly. Yes, she did. Now, at another point, while having with this mystery man who, again, she still doesn't know the name of, Kimmy decides to call my wife in his phone. Having her saved as my wife in his phone is hilarious. And come to find out, his wife is Mallory. And Mallory, upon hearing the sounds of his blatant affair, she goes speeding down the private road leading to their family's houses, leading her to accidentally hit a woman who was going for a jog at night in the rain. She does consider helping the woman off the ground and quickly decides that is not her problem, and so she drives home. The episode ends with Kimmy coming back to the hotel room to find, you know, Rain ain't doing so good. Her booty is leaking and she's bleeding and vomiting and she's not in a good place. So, episode 2, A Dance with Daddy. So, the mystery man that we've been seeing up until this point that we can now say is Mallory's husband. His name is Roy, and he, while driving home as well, also runs over that woman that was But because he didn't know that he was the second person to run her over, he decides to pick her up in the trunk and drive home. When he comes home, Mallory confronts him for cheating, but honestly, they have more pressing issues. The body in his trunk. And instead of calling a hospital, because this woman is still alive and breathing, they decide to call Jules, who is their family main man, security. He's a fixer, a cleaner-upper, if you will. Mr. Clean. I think it's fair to say everyone, for the most part, in the family has some level of, they have varying levels of trust for Jules. Some kind of trust him implicitly, whereas Mallory keeps him at arm's length, but uses him to do dirty work when it makes sense. To do so. Meanwhile, back with Rain's booty. Again, she is vomiting. She is not doing well. She should not just stay in this hotel. She needs actual medical attention. Her ass is falling off. And when Kimmy calls Body to let her know what's going on with Rain, Body says not to take her to the hospital because they're all gonna get in trouble. She could go to jail. T.S. Madison could lose her license. All this, we could get in trouble. Don't do it. I'll come over and see and try to help. So here comes Body and Miss Madison. And Kimmy is like, bitch, what credentials do you have to do anything? And because she asked a valid question of why do you do butt jobs in motel rooms, Body slaps her and she does nothing. Again, this is like the 5th time somebody done yanked her up and she ain't done shit. Y'all got one time. Miss Madison is like, all she needed some rest, and let's clean up all this evidence at the same time. All she needs some rest, give her some Tylenol, she'll be fine, whatever. But Body ends up calling Jules. I had another girl go to get her body done and she not doing so well. And Jules is transphobic. And also during this conversation, you find out that Miss Madison done killed several people that worked at, she done killed some talent. Why do y'all keep using a whole girl? Just because one person survived, that might be the odd one out, baby. I don't know if you should be advertising her expertise, if you will. So back to Roy and Mallory, they decide to hide the body. But because Roy is a idiot, he is speeding and drinking while driving, which gets them pulled over by police. So they take in Roy for drunk driving, and the police are like, okay, we're gonna tow this truck with the body in the back. Jules is able to use his connections to get Roy out of jail, and Mallory tells Jules that Roy was the person that ran over the woman and that she is still moving in the trunk when he got taken in. So Jules sends his men to shoot up some random dude at the front desk to take that car and put it in a junkyard. Kimmy gets attacked to bring Rain to the hospital no matter what they say. And when Jules finds out that she took her to the hospital, he chastises her for doing so. Back at the club, the old man has come back to see Kimmy again in the VIP area, but he doesn't want to dance. He wants to talk about Angel, particularly if she can set him up with Angel and, let him know if he's straight. She basically is like, hey, ain't nobody straight if you got the money for it here. He was like, well, is he private? She's like, if the money right, we can make anything straight. And she's like, I can get him to do whatever for $1,500. You should probably ask him. I think you might want to ask him. And not only that, he says he only had 800 and she felt like she's giving him a deal, so she give it for 500. It ain't your bussy, bitch. You can't, don't tell me that you bargained away my ass. What the Anyway, now old man trusts Kimmy implicitly for some reason. He wants her to bring Angel to somewhere for them to get a dance, maybe do a little something just strange for some change. And in exchange, Kimmy asks for the old man to go visit Rain because she's not able to, and he agrees to do so. Eventually, somebody finds that lady's body in the tow yard, and come to find out she is actually still alive. And I was thinking, if they taken this body to a tow yard, what they shoot him for? They could have just brought the shit in there. They didn't need to shoot anybody, but that actually brought more attention to the tow yard when you find 2 dead bodies. Anyway, the woman is still alive, and which is very confusing to the cops who are on the scene, who also incidentally, secretly, conspiratorially work with Jules as well. They're like, damn, she ain't dead. I thought she'd be dead. Okay. Angel goes and does the dance, and then the old man starts coughing. He's obviously very sick. He's able to just finish up the dance, and he's given money, and he leaves. The old man asks Kimmy to take him home, and this is where she realizes he is rich as f. She helps him into the house, and this is when she realizes, by looking at photos throughout the house, this isn't just anybody. He is related to Roy. This man knows Jules, who is her pimp. This man knows Mallory, the woman that was giving away scholarships. This man knows Roy. This man knows the secret man, the secret nameless man that she's been having with, because he is his father. The man she's been having with is Roy Bellary, heir to the Bellary Beauty and Black empire. And things aren't as what they seem. Dun dun dun. Episode 3, The Aftermath. This man, we can now deduce, is Horace Bellary, one of the co-creators of Beauty in Black. He made it with his brother Norman, who is a chemist and scientist of some sort who probably made their formulations. He has prostate cancer, which his family does not know, and he wants to see Angel again, despite the fact that, as he will find, Angel stole his watch. Kimmy decides to do what she can to get the watch back, because if he has all this money and power and influence, we don't want to mess with that. Now that the woman has been retrieved from the trunk, we find out who it is. It is actually Norman's wife, Ina, his wife. That's all you need to know. And Norman is hell-bent on finding out who did this to his wife, and he's on a rampage, willing to do whatever needs to be done. Jules and Mallory talk about the woman who got ran over, and it's pretty clear that Jules assumes that it was Mallory, but Mallory is like, it don't matter, she old, the bitch won't make it. And if she can't make it, she can't say who ran her over. So Body and T.S. Madison come over to Kimmy to beat her ass up because they found out that she took Rain to the hospital when they said don't do so. Again, for that loose cannon, she don't do shit. She just get her ass rocked. Norman goes to church feeling a new level of hopelessness, and this is where he will see Olivia, who is his ex-sister-in-law, his brother's ex-wife. Now, Norman is believing that it's very possible that his brother's sons, his nephews, are so reckless and so dangerous when driving that they very well could have ran over his wife, to such an extent that he's already ready to enact revenge. He feels like who else could have done it but them? They're the only people who are that reckless to do so. And I believe that my brother, Horace, is covering it up for them because he knows what I'm capable of. Olivia takes this information over to her son, Charles, and we meet him balls deep in another man. And this is where we get full on balls, man ass that his mother is seeing. I was shocked. I was like, oh, a long way, Tyler Perry. We've come a long way. Very straight Tyler Perry. But I was shocked. You could see it swinging back and forth. I was like, oh my God. And here comes his mama rushing in. He's like, oh my God, his mom. But he doesn't stop. He does not stop having even though his mom is I was floored. Once Olivia shoos his date away, we learn a lot about Charles very quickly. Obviously, the first time we see him, he is having particularly gay. He also does a lot of drugs. He's also a big partier. He's a fan of cars. He has a Cybertruck. I assume this was recorded before its Nazi association, but it also wouldn't be surprising me if it wasn't. But anyway, she's there to ask whether or not Charles hit anybody on their private road, and he's like, no. And when she goes to look at his cars, there's no evidence of him hitting anybody. So she's like, I don't see anything that would suggest that he's involved. So she goes to the company to question more of anyone driving on the private road. And she goes to Mallory, if I'm not mistaken, to basically warn that we need to be careful because Norman feels like somebody had something to do with his wife's death, and he will make the world world burn if he feels betrayed. Eventually, Kennie goes to visit Rain, even though she was literally beaten up for doing so. And when she's there, she hears Rain talk about how the nurses there don't treat her well and that they are very, very vindictive and malicious even. She thinks that they're going to the place that they would try to kill her. They tell her that she's gonna die because she has blood clot and that they're going to her lungs and that she may not be able to make it. But none of the nurses there are taking her seriously. So each day she feels more and more at their mercy and she's very, very scared. She does tell Rain about Jules and Horace. And speaking of Jules, he actually catches her on the way out of the hospital and he threatens her, telling her, actually no, he attempted to murder her by telling her to stand in front of the car as he drives up to it, but because it has safety features, it won't let him kill people anymore. This woke media, you know, these woke these woke safety features. I remember the Wild West, baby. When we ran into somebody, that was it. They were cut in half. What happened to the good old days? He was like, if you come here again, I'm gonna kill you. So now, being that Mallory knows that he's cheating on her, Roy has deduced that Kennie is the reason why she knows. And so he wants to make her suffer. Now, Horace, the closeted gay man, unfortunately is a stereotype in that he's an old closeted gay who is homophobic to his gay son who was out. How embarrassing. And granted, Charles is in the midst of a company board meeting, considering they have a class action lawsuit that's being filed against them that's worth $1.5 billion. I think there are things that are more pressing than cum. But because again, Tyler Perry seems to be trying out the words related to in his script, for some reason we have to read out,
I want you to me hard and make me come.
Their lawyer for this class action lawsuit is a man named Varney. Very cute. Like I told you, Tyler Perry loves him, a gay hot man. So fine. Anyway, I think Angel is super fine. Varney is super fine. Charles has his charms, but he's not really my style. But Varney and Angel, yeah. Oh, I don't even think about Roy. He's fine. But Varney is their lawyer and he says not to settle. We can figure something out because if we settle for $1.5 billion, bitch, we bankrupt. We have nothing. Norman has taken it upon himself to get clues on what happened to his wife. And while on the private road, he notices that her shoe is on the side of the road, which lets him know that she was hit on that road because at this point she's been discovered at a tow park really far away from the house. So like, how did she end up there? That really does show that she was picked up from that place on the private road. So now more than ever, he is demanding to find out who ran over my wife. Episode 4, a family affair. Norman comes in blazing and there is bad blood between him and Horace, right? And despite that being the case, it somehow gets mad homophobic for no reason. I don't know how Charles became the scapegoat for you being too mad at each other.
You and this fruitcake.
But everybody gets a shot in. What the
Who lets another man climb on your back and in the ass? You're a loser.
Norman is like, if my wife dies, I'm burning this bitch to the ground. Everybody's going down with me. I don't give a And Horace is like, the reason we in this lawsuit is because of your ass formulating scientist, bitch. You gave everybody cancer and now we got to figure it out. So you already burned it down, basically, bitch. Anyway, he leaves out and Olivia seems to be the only person that's kind of takes his threats seriously, but to the extent that she tries to warn Charles in particular to not antagonize him because Charles has a tendency to kind of, poke the bear, if you will. And she's like, do not antagonize him. It will kill you. And he's like, I don't. She's like, please, maybe stay at my house. Don't go home because he will retaliate. And he's like, I don't give a her. Like, he does not take Uncle Norman seriously at all, even though Olivia seems to be very concerned. Kimmy's mom calls her asking for money, and this seems to be a routine thing she does, which, damn, after dropping her off randomly, having the nerve to call her for money is on brand with trifling mamas, but damn. Apparently, she's been lying to her family back home, saying that she's a nurse. Kimmy has. But it doesn't matter because she can't come home because her mama is still with her abusive boyfriend that abused Kimmy when she was a child. At some point, Kennie is able to return that watch of Horace's, and later Angel is kind of upset about it because he looked up the watch and apparently it was worth $1.5 million. So if he'd have got that kind of money, we could have got some real money out of him. We should rob that. And Kimmy is like, or that's how you wind up dead. Maybe not. Norman has been going to his wife's hospital for the last few days since she was hit. She is currently in a coma, and Olivia goes and visits him, and they say a lot of words that maybe could have been talked about more maybe later in the show, but they don't. Something about how they used to fuck. She used to her brother-in-law, and he cheated on his now incapacitated wife with Olivia at one point, but they were able to work it out. But Olivia came in to basically say, hey, I don't want you to hurt my boys. Now stay away from my boys. Olivia basically says it couldn't have been my boys because XYZ reason it couldn't have been, and Charles had friends over, so it wasn't him. And then Norman refers to them as, quote, two booty bandits.
You mean them two little booty bandits that went to Charles's house?
This is a bit of a deep cut for the channel. I like to make references to references that I've already made references, but you got to keep up with the KennieJD lore, okay? But I said in a video when I was reading off Quan Mills that before I knew what Quan Mills looked like, I knew he was a fat, dark-skinned man just because of the way that he talks about fat people and dark-skinned people, just people in general. You know, there's a certain vitriol with which he talks about fatness in particular that leads you to believe this is coming from a real place. That's how I feel when I hear like gay slurs in a Tyler Perry work. Though Tyler Perry says that he's straight, and who am I to say that he's not? All I'm saying that this is a lot of man ass. We ain't seen a lesbian yet, but I've seen so much man ass. Maybe he's just trying to be representative, you know, but Atlanta's known for a lot of things. And it's not heterosexuality. But okay. Anyway, yeah. So Olivia's like, I know all your shit, Norman. I know how crooked you are. I know how you work with Jules to traffic people out of that club. I know how you worked with Jules since he worked at the airport. And she's like, I won't release any of your secrets unless you go after my boys. If you go after my boys, it's real. It's on site because they my horrible mother.
They are my horrible motherfuckers. Motherfucker.
He thought he ate. He thought he ate so much. He started like, nom, 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 nom. He thought he ate. Oh my God. Jesus. Okay. Like I said, more people. There's hell in the show. So Calvin, he's gonna be Mallory's driver, her security detail as well. And the light-skinned girl that I didn't know her name until I started scripting this, her name is Jillian. Now Jillian comes into the show as if she matters, but rest assured, not really. I'm gonna mention what she does throughout the show simply because maybe it will become a factor next season. But as of right now, she's an afterthought, but they keep giving her these lines as if she's supposed to matter at some point. I don't know. Of them all though, Jillian is the worst written character of the entire show. I kind of wish she didn't have to beat her, whatever. She's like cartoonishly evil without it being cohesive or merited or understandable, like what her motivations are. She's an absolute mess. She and Calvin are, if not dating, messing around, right? And Calvin hears from Charles that Jillian gave Roy some head and Charles caught them. And when Calvin confronts her about this, that's where he's kind of like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm good. Peace out. And she's like, all I want is you, baby. No. All I want is you. I don't know what. I just found out what I do is stimming, like officially. And I was like, if you quote things, that's not stimming. That's referencing, silly goose. Mallory decides to get a drink with their lawyer, Varney, cute dark-skinned dude. And at first it seems like they're talking about the lawsuit. Eventually it turns into Mallory turning to him and saying, Varney, do you want to me? And he's like, I'ma head out. Because bitch, what? You in the midst of a lawsuit about giving people cancer? You want to add on you like misconduct and harassment too, bitch? This is your employee. You hired him. What the is wrong with you? God, you're already about to be down 1.5 billion, bitch. You can't wait until he's not working for you, ho. Anyway, he turns her down and she's a very prideful woman. So she's like, you're going to stay here and you're not going to leave. I'm going to leave. Optics, darling. Mallory then talks to Calvin in the back of the car and he seems down with it because she's been talking about how, you know, she's very like angry, stoic person, but she's like, I haven't felt desired or whatever. And he was like, hey, I'll make you feel desired. I can eat your coochie in the back of this car real quick. And she's like, okay, go crazy, I guess. Go stupid. Go crazy. And incidentally, because again, telenovela, Jillian is there to catch him underwater. Back at the club, Kimmy comes into the club and overhears Body telling everybody that the reason Rain is in the hospital is not because of her botched butt job, but because she got asthma. That's kind of funny. And then in comes Horace again asking for Kimmy. And oh wait, this is when she returns the watch to him. And Kimmy is like, I know who you are and I don't want to do this bullshit. And then once he gets his watch, Horace goes to leave, but then he sees his son there, Charles, at the club, and he panics, not wanting him to see him there. I'm like, oh, why is my homophobic daddy over at the getting a gay lap dance? You know what I mean? Or like, what is he doing here in general, let alone trying to get involved with a male dancer, you know? Angel agrees to meet with him for money again, but Angel still wants to rob him. He's like, he got all this shit, we should rob him. And Angel is like laying it on pretty thick because he's trying to get Horace enticed or whatever. He hit him with the, are you excited, daddy? I know what you are, Tyler Perry. I know it. He gets naked and dances for him real sensually, and Horace start coughing up blood. Back to Jillian. She mad because Calvin was Mallory and she has to do her own like undeserved monologue. That's like her thing. She gives these really strong speeches, but she's like a non-character in the show. So it feels like so not earned and kind of like soap opera-y to a dumb degree, cartoonish, almost that it sucks you out of it. She's like, you fool, you tough guy. I'll make you regret it. Anyway, the episode ends with Kimmy going to the hospital again to check on Rain, only for them to say she did. Episode 5, Unraveling Strings. Heartbroken, Kimmy goes back to the hotel and Bonnie and Delinda beat her up again, this time for not answering her phone. That is how the beginning of the day starts off. Again, for that loose cannon, she done got roughed up by like 6 at this point and she ain't done shit. I don't think y'all know what the word means. Now, Norman is still at the hospital with his wife, and Jules comes to play both sides. Again, he be talking to Mallory about how she got ran over, but he telling Norman he has no idea how she got there. It's crazy. Like, we got to figure out what's going on. He does tell him that there was a triple homicide at the tow yard in which they found his wife, and she was found at a tow yard in a different state entirely. Norman believes that his family members, presumably his nephews, did this on purpose because if she dies, there is no one for him to leave his portion of his stakes in the company to, because they don't have any children. So that would be taken up by the rest of the family. They would get a bigger share when he dies, right? But just at the moment, the people at the hospital say, hey, she's actually miraculously doing very well. She might be able to make a full recovery, which is crazy. They didn't know she would. That's awesome. But upon hearing that, Jules is like, oh no, because if she's conscious, she might start talking. So he calls Mallory and he's like, hey, she might make it. And Mallory is like, well, let's see to it that she don't. They bring Kimmy to Roy again for some reason. There ain't nobody, he don't seem to like her very much. He can't even find somebody else. Shit. But he's there particularly to confront her about whether or not she called his wife. She lies and says no. He then goes into the whole sob story about how she don't know what it's like for him. You know, he grew up with parents that hate him and his brother's gay. That's a big deal, but he can't get hard and it's your fault. So he just like kicks her out and it's like, he basically says to her, you're not smart enough to get me hard. And because she's not smart enough to get him hard, she couldn't be smart enough to contact his wife. God. And so he's like, yeah, then you didn't do it because you're too stupid to do it. Unraveling threads indeed. Anyway, he kicks her ass out and that's basically the end of their interactions one-on-one. Angel finishes his dance for Horace and he's like trying to entice him to call him back again so he can rob him. But Horace still wants to contact Kimmy in like organizing the meeting. Now, Angel got a baby mama and she kind of crazy. I haven't really mentioned her because the only thing you need to know is that she thinks that him and Kimmy are so she goes to his car that is parked at their motel room. It's completely platonic, by the way. But she goes to his car, starts beating it with a baseball bat, and comes with her brothers, threatening him to not come back to the house. You can sleep here if you want to this other bitch. So he's like, damn, why is life so not fair? God, why does he get to have a $1.5 million watch and my baby mama just destroyed my car? I'm tired of scraping by. Let's rob that please. Now, Jules goes to Horace and tells him, hey, Roy was the one that ran over your brother's wife, ran over Norman's wife. And Horace is like, I hate my sons. I think they're terrible people. But he will help Roy just because he doesn't want Norman to have the satisfaction of seeing his child go to jail. So, because they hate each other so much. So the idea that you can rub in my face that my son murdered your wife is just not going to work for me. So So Norman is like, somebody at that hospital owes me favors, so I'm gonna get her handled. So sad. She got thrown into some bullshit. So incidentally, a nurse comes to visit her in the hospital while Norman's there. And she's very personable. Honestly, the best actor of the entire show. Very natural, very normal. She's very sweet. She's like, hey, I can get you a bed. And she's like changing the IV. And she's like, she's doing really nice. She was very accommodating. Great. But for some reason, nobody at the hospital knows who this woman is. Later, when Norman goes up to the front desk and wants to speak with her again. Meanwhile, Mallory asks Calvin to figure out where her husband is and if he is with another woman. And this becomes a reoccurring thing that she does all the time. She asks every person, where is her husband and who is he? Not because she cares all that much as far as like the monogamy of the relationship. It's more so because she don't want to be embarrassed on a blog because ew, I get her. I mean, yeah, embarrassing. You're not gonna have me as a bitch on the blog. Exactly. In return for Calvin, she says that she'll make it worth his while, which can mean money or preferably if I were him, I would prefer money because he already got for free. I like money personally. Jules starts chastising Body because apparently she can't keep Kimmy under control because she's always doing shit that Body is supposed to be able to handle in. And she is like, I'm sorry, daddy, I'll suck your make it up to you. And he's like, get away from me, you harlot. You suck too many I don't want that from you, and kicks her out, saying he is thinking about giving her spot to Kimmy since she seems to be the only bitch that does what she's supposed, well, not what she's supposed to do, but she's the only one with some balls around here. And Body can't have that. She refused to be outdone by a bitch who is below her, according to her understanding. Now, remember when Mallory tried to get the lawyer Varney to her? Well, the reason why he wouldn't do it is because he's gay, and he's actually already Charles right now. Bad idea. Holy shit. Ain't seen a lesbian yet. Just putting that out there. Now, Varney is not out per se because his career is just taken off and the good old boys wouldn't want to work with a gay lawyer. To be honest with you, I don't think that's probably the issue for these people, but because the old men have this weird thing about gayness, but I think it's more so weird that you're the client's son. That's just a bad look. You could anybody else. Why are you a client's son? Mind you, Varney is very open about how the Bellary family is his biggest client, but again, that doesn't stop him from their son. Jesus. Okay. Mallory is still upset at everyone, and the only reason I bring this up is to talk about this line that is completely unwarranted, where she says that Jillian, quote, smells like old hair grease and mothballs.
You smell like old hair grease and mothballs. You smell like fucking Jim Crow.
That is funny. I'll give him that one. That one was funny. Okay. Now, what we can tell about Jillian, what little of a character she is that she seems to be not just Mallory's pincushion, but she seems to kind of idolize Mallory. If not directly, she wants to be like Mallory. You know, sometimes she'll sit at her desk and sometimes she'll like honestly steal her clothes. One day she goes into her closet going to get a dress, and Roy thinks that she's actually supposed to be like a honey trap for him that his wife set so that she can maybe make him look bad in some way. Girl, no, she got a murder to cover up. She don't give a Now, Norman and his wife, the wife seemed to be doing better, was out of her coma, but after that mysterious nurse that nobody knows who she is, suddenly her condition has worsened drastically, and that's when he knows that something nefarious is afoot. This nurse comes in last night that nobody knows, and suddenly she's dying, and the doctors are basically asking him to make the decision of whether or not to pull the plug, essentially. Instead, he goes, calls Jules, because that's who everyone calls, and he says, I need to move my wife. I feel like something is going on at this hospital. I think my brother has gotten to the doctors or somebody here and is trying to take my wife out. And now, desperate, feeling as though his wife is about to die, Norman calls Horace and tells him, I'm gonna kill both of your sons because I know they had something to do with it, and I know you got something to do with it. Horace is like, don't come calling me about some shit you gonna do, just do it, and hangs up. Episode 6, bang, bang, shot him down, bang, bang, that awful sound. Bang, bang. People are protesting Beauty in Black because it causes cancer. Fair enough. Mallory is like, hey, how do we get rid of the protesters? Have we considered just running them over? We can just blame it on like a terrorist or something. Jules is like, not a good idea. You don't really want that many eyes on y'all, maybe. And more importantly, I'm here to let you know that your aunt is dying. But Norman is trying to save her, trying to move her so that she can be all right. So he tells Mallory that a good idea would be for her to show her face at the hospital to kind of distract things before he makes his next move, finds out what his next move really is. And in return, she would like to know again who Roy is. Again, not because she cares about him per se. She's upset that he is careless and he could embarrass her. Angel's baby mama was not satisfied by hitting his car with a bat, so she decides to light his car on fire. He's like, man, once we run this old dude for some money, we'll be off for a better life. We can't keep living like this, dog. We can use this to help Rain get better. And this is when Kimmy tells him, she's dead. They told me she died. But eventually through the conversation, Kimmy is like, yeah, I'm desperate enough to rob Horace. He was supposed to check on her. He was supposed to keep her safe. He didn't do that, obviously. Mallory goes and visits Norman and basically plays dumb, saying that she's just here checking in on him, trying to be a good niece, essentially. And despite the doctors recommended that they don't move her, Norman does so anyway. Roy comes by the company seeing the protesters, and instead of avoiding attention, he decides to walk straight through them, accusing them of being paid actors and agitators. Full Alex Jones here, where he is confronted by a woman whose daughter has cancer after using their product, and you're like, you're really gonna say that we're faking it? You're really gonna say we're full of shit and we were paid to be here? And as you can imagine, not a good look for the company. So of course he doesn't know how to lie low and not make the company look bad, so I'm sure that's gonna be great. He is also served by that lawyer that served the subpoena to Mallory, and she lets him know that they actually knew each other in college, and he probably doesn't remember her because he's dated so many people. He insults her, but eventually he's so far up his own ass that she's able to flatter him into perhaps chatting more with her about settling. Jillian offers Roy to make up for him thinking that she was a honey trap, that she was tantalizing him with on behalf of Mallory. I don't know why that. Just say you want some. Like, why are you making it sound like there's some big nefarious plot to get to you? She's trying to give you some. Shouldn't take it. She's your employee. But as far as like other people, like, I'm being set up. Kimmy gets a call from her little sister, Sylvie. She's still at home with her abusive mother and her abusive boyfriend. And the little sister is 16, and apparently she believes, perhaps her and Kimmy have talked about it, that once she is 18, she will come and live with Kimmy. Again, believing that she is a nurse, that she has her own apartment where Sylvie can have her own room and they can be free of her mother and her bullshit. And when they hang up, this is when Kimmy is like, I'm so embarrassed of the life I live and that I have to lie to my sister about the life I live. And I'm tired of living like this. Let's run for his money. So she's also mad at him because again, he didn't go check on Rain. He didn't do his side of it. So let's run that shit. The video of Roy being confronted by the mom with the child with cancer goes viral. Again, bad look. And Mallory is so pissed and also finds his plans to meet with the lawyer to talk over the settlement. Charles, haven't talked about Charles a lot this episode. He's actually been staying at Varney's house to avoid his own house because his mom said that your Uncle Norman will kill you. But at this point, he's like, I'm tired of taking this seriously. I want to go out. I want to party. I want to go out with you, Varney. And Varney's like, no, I'm not interested in my clients finding out I'm gay. And basically Charles calls him a closeted bitch. And he was like, okay, well, that's the end of our relationship. And then, you know what's wild? I've actually seen this part of the show 3 times. And this is the first time. There was so much man ass. I guess it just went right over my head. But Charles, Varney is leaving out. Charles pulls down his pants, turns around and is like, you know, you gonna miss this ass. Thank you. Very straight Tyler Perry. Again, so much egregious amounts of man ass in this show. Again, I'm not upset. I'm just confused. Norman's wife dies during transportation to the new hospital, and feeling as though this was, again, the machinations of Horace or his other family members, he actually shoots 4 people in the face in retaliation for his wife's death. Episode 7, Even Playing Fields. After committing quadruple homicide, Norman goes to to the tow yard that his wife was found at, and he speaks with the security guard there. The security guard is the brother of one of the people that were shot last time, and Norman comes to get information about what had happened and whether or not anyone there had seen Jules, knows other people, and he doesn't really get any information. Well, Norman goes asking for information, and they don't really have anything. They've given everything they have to the police. Roy, in a high drunken haze, considers sabotaging the lawsuit because everyone thinks Mallory runs the company, which damn, she is the only person on camera we've ever seen do anything work related. He gets in her face basically saying, you think you run this shit, but you don't. And so she slaps him, and then he pushes her, and in comes Calvin like, hey, you good, Mallory? And he's like, her name is Mrs. Bellery to you, bitch. And I'm like, he's a full 4 to 6 inches taller than you, I would stand down. So he doesn't do that. Roy goes and swings at him, misses, real embarrassing. He don't rush to get up because how can you? Your pride. Varney goes to Charles and apologizes for their last argument. And again, he explains like, hey, you've had money your whole life. I haven't. I just started making money as a lawyer enough to support my lifestyle just a few years ago. And I work for the good old boys who don't want to gay anybody around them, let alone a lawyer. And especially when that's son. Now, the only one that is your fault though is the client's son. Maybe you could have avoided that. You could have not did that. That was your decision. But okay. So back at the club with a background of oiled man ass. Again, Angel chats with another stripper about doing the bus on Horace. He needs a ride because she burned his car up. So now he added another person in on a heist, which is crazy. You theoretically would want as few people as possible. And in the women's locker room, Body is going on and on about how she got a new girl coming tomorrow and she's 16 and she real young and like I'm real young. And she's like, I don't care, that's illegal. All this shit is illegal. I don't give a f. And now, when she said she was 16, I knew immediately, this is Kimmy's sister, because ain't nobody else been 16 ever in this show. So, ding, ding, ding. Jillian goes to Calvin for protecting Mallory. And considering he's literally her security detail, yeah, she's like, you my man, though. And he's like, no, I'm not. Leave me alone. And basically, she's like, you gonna make me turn into the mean bitch I used to be. And a lot of people in this show, women in particular, refer to themselves as like, there's this once crazy bitch that is about to be unlocked. Olivia has a line like that. Jillian has a line like that. It's insinuated with Kimmy. Every character was once an unhinged, untethered, crazy bitch that found Jesus and is about to be put back into their place. Tyler Perry really likes that trope. Anyway, Horace comes to the club, and while there, he sees Charles's car. So he's not going to go into the building. He don't want his son, who he openly is homophobic towards, know that he's there for some gay action. So what he does is he goes in the back. Now the back is a drive-in orgy. Whatever happened to the Christian musicals? Does anybody else remember the Christian musicals? I will say, I saw our first lesbian. Okay, we're 7 episodes in. We've seen a lot of man ass, but okay, you did it. Good job, Tyler Perry. Bunch outside with no music actually playing nearby. It's just like the inside music inside the club, and it's so awkward. We see a woman eating another woman's on the hood of a car. So representation, that's good. Charles ended up talking to the dude that was talking to Angel about the bust on Horace. Keep up. And Charles is like, you trying to come home with me? And he's like, I would for a price, but he doesn't want to go to his house. He wants to do something in the bathroom. And so he entices him with cocaine and how he got money, and the dude tried to bend him over, and he's like, oh, back no, I want to go to my house. So here's where I stay and come through. Meanwhile, Mallory chastises Calvin about getting between her and Roy. She also doesn't trust him because he was hired by Jules, and she don't really trust Jules like that. She just uses him when convenient. But he not listening to her. He goes into, I know how you like that how I fight. What the He goes, I know you like how I you last night and how I made you I hate, oh God. And she like, are you wearing a wire? And he's like, no, but he wants to keep. Kimmy goes out to see Horace, and he tells her that he wants to meet Angel at his house. Mind you, he stole his watch, though he got it back. I don't know why you would invite him to your house, but okay. Oh, Mallory and Calvin end up in the elevator after a power struggle. Now, again, Kimmy is involved in the heist, but she kind of apprehensive about it. Angel was a much more gun-ho, and she gets even more apprehensive about it when Angel says, like, there's other people that he got involved in it. And she's like, what the f? But Horace and Angel get together at a house. It's like an extra house that he keeps away from the rest of the family. So I guess they don't know that he gay. And while they go upstairs about to get busy, she gets a call. And the call is from Rain. Dun, dun, dun. The bitch ain't dead. She was moved to a different hospital and she thought that Kimmy knew that. And she's like, why didn't you come and visit me? She was like, I thought you were dead. And she was like, no, I ain't dead. They put me in a better hospital. This place is nice. And Kimmy is like, damn, this is crazy. I'm happy you alive, but considering part of the motivation I have for robbing this violently in a few minutes is that I thought you were dead. So she's like, oh no, we gotta stop it. We gotta stop the robbery. And the episode ends with Charles's yellow car, sports car, which is that not the same car at the end of Duplicity? They had a lease, baby. They had a lease. You hear me? And it gets shot up, boom, boom, pow, explosion. They said, we using up that whole rental and not giving the car back, I guess. Episode 8, Killing Karma. This episode starts with Kimmy running into the room trying to stop them from taking Horace. But in comes these dudes that Angel obviously hired to rob the place. And they get down on the floor. But eventually, Horace is able to pull out an AK and he... I don't know where he got it. He got it from a couch cushion. And he gets out an AK-47 and shoots 4 people. Both brothers got 4 bodies that we have seen on screen. Or 2 bodies at least. He shot hella people. The only people that he doesn't shoot is Angel and Kimmy, and they're like, hey, we know that this is bad. We wanted to rob you again. But this time, Kimmy admits that she played along because she was mad about Rain, and they know everything about the operation that Horace must run with Jules, because if you Jules's boss, then you're our pimp's boss. And, you know, and when they're talking about that, they're like, Horace is like, what are you talking about? Jules, he don't know nothing about Jules's operation at all at the club. He's like, what are you talking about? They explain that Jules got them out of trouble by colluding with a judge to get them off from their charges at the airport. And once Horace hears the name of the judge, he's like, you don't know me, you ain't seen me, you ain't never met me, and tells them to leave. Angel starts freaking out because of the murders, because damn. And she's like, damn, stop being a you ain't never seen nobody get shot before. You from Chicago. As a bitch that's from Detroit, I've never seen a murder. What the I'm pretty sure I heard a few though. Doing crime, they're not very quiet about it, but I probably should have been more afraid. I was like 12. It's just like, it's another day. Everybody turn the lights out. Go to bed. Anyway, Horace calls Jules to come clean up the bodies, and he brings Calvin along too for some reason. And basically, he tells Jules that he wants to meet with that judge. Okay, Roy goes to meet with that lawyer that's suing them. And there, he tries to tantalize her with a job. And right when she's saying, you're not going to be able to buy me, you're not going to bribe me with a job, in comes Mallory. She tells Roy to leave, and she kind of intimidates him to leave when she says, there are people outside. You don't want some men to have to come in here, basically threatening him. She's like, I will shoot your ass up. She was able to get all the restaurant to leave. She said, I will air this bitch out. Mallory, though, also offers her a job. And she's like, it's funny you do that. I was just telling your husband when he offered me a job that I cannot be bought. Angel and Kimmy go to see Rain, and that's where they find out that she's a VIP at the hospital, actually. And she's like, wow, I thought that Horace just left her to die, and he actually really accommodated her. Damn. Rain notices that Angel's foot is covered in blood, and she's like, is everything okay out there? Like, what's going on? She's like, yeah, we good. Roy and Mallory argue for the billionth time on screen. I haven't mentioned every argument because we'd be here forever. But basically, while arguing in the back of the car, he notices that she ain't got no panties on. She ain't got no panties on because she Calvin regularly. And they have this like power struggle thing because he's like, I can you. And she's like, get away from me, you peasant. And then he eat her and she's like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore the harassment claim waiting to happen with me my employee. But I digress. It's hot for her. So anyway, but towards the end of this episode, we are reminded that Charles's car exploded at the end of the last episode. Anyway, she finally sees the fire and they're like, I'm like, damn, nobody smelled nothing. No one heard nothing. It exploded. It was a mushroom explosion. Y'all ain't see, heard, smelled nothing. Okay. Anyway, nobody saw shit when you drove out to meet the lawyer or when you drove back. Anyway, but yeah, they're like, yeah, Charles was in an accident. Oh no. it. Wow. He was only halfway interesting person on the camera. That was up. Kimmy comes back to the motel, and of course, as always, here is Body and Delinda there to yell at her. But this is where Body tells her that she had actually kidnapped her sister, and she got her sister from her mama, and that she plans to traffic her at the strip club. And Delinda kidnaps her and takes her to the club, and then Body and Kimmy get into a fight that ends with Kimmy driving her car into Body abruptly, and that is where the episode ends. It doesn't have a time to simmer. You can't acknowledge. She just hit, and then rap music that's really fast. And something that Atlanta side, man. And here's the Georgia Peach. Tension build up, no like drop of tension that she hit her, no like, oh my God, how will this go? It's just over immediately. You see Georgia Peach and somebody is rapping at you. And that's the end of the first half of the season. You see why I really didn't plan to talk about it if that was the season finale. But alas, it was only a few more months before the next 8 episodes were released. And lucky you won't have to wait a few months. You just have to wait a few days when I come back and talk about the second half of the season of Tyler Perry's Beauty in Black. You make me cry. No. Okay, it's too easy. I'm sorry. 사랑하는 일체 만날 또 나지 마. 이게 끝이 아니야. 너무 아파 아야. 제발 나를 떠나지 마, baby. 버리지 마, baby. Close enough. Okay, let me stop. That's the end of the video. Big thanks again to our sponsor, ThreadUp. Feel free to click on my link and use code Kennie50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first order. And I'll see you guys for the next few. If you like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram and Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. Stimming. Did I say Twitter? I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Instagram and Bluesky, both of which are KennieJD. Boop, boop. Boop. I was talking with my managers about possibly doing something in person. So let me know where you guys are from and if you would want to do KennieJD live where you are. If no one's interested, there's no point of like looking more into it. But if you are interested, let me know down in the comment section. Probably should have said this earlier in the video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.